What's going on, guys? I was looking for something that was like kind of like a hidden gem or an underrated novel. I wanted to find one in the fantasy genre, and this is what I found. Miserere by Teresa Frohock. This is her first novel. It was published in 2011. I would say it's a fantasy novel, but it has religious mythos and some darker tone stuff in there for sure. So the story takes place in World, not World, World, and World has a number of religions, just like our own planet. But here they all get along. That's because they have a common enemy, the Fallen. Now the Fallen are essentially just demons in the armies of hell. So the protagonist of the story is Lucian Negru. Now, Lucian is an exorcist who has been exiled by the Citadel for deserting the love of his life, Rachel, in hell. Now, he did this because he was trying to also salvage his twin sister's soul, Katerina. So, when the story starts, Lucian is basically confined to Katerina's estate. Now, he's not really just a prisoner to his sister, he's also a prisoner to himself because he carries around a lot of grief, a lot of guilt, and a lot of shame over, leaving Rachel in hell. Previous escape attempts by Lucian have left him crippled, his leg crippled. But the pain in his leg is nothing compared to the pain of him having to like basically stand around and watch his sister become an even bigger monster. So eventually, with a little help of some divinity, Lucian does make a successful escape, and he really just kind of sets out to right some wrongs. And this is kind of where it really starts to take off. All right, we got Heaven, Hell, and the Crimson Veil. We got demon dogs and jackals. We have bloody vines and rose faces. We have Christ magic, worm possession, a threaded puppet monster, and of course, evil plots laid throughout trying to keep the right people in the wrong position. All right, so now we've scratched the surface, so we can get into the good, the bad, the ugly. First, we'll go into the pace. The pace is rather quick. I mean, at least for me, I got really hooked with this book. There's a bunch of stuff. It kind of throws you into a very rich world, and you know there's a bunch of stuff, but it hasn't explained it yet. So you're kind of going, "Oh, what?" And but you're chomping at the bit to figure it out. And I feel like that really helps speed up the pace and wants you to keep, engaging in the story and turning the pages. I would say that Teresa Frohock is a descriptive writer. She's not overly descriptive, but everything in the book gets a description. If there's a desk, you're going to know what it looks like. And, just depending on what kind of reader you are, that can either slow you down or not at all. But I will say this as well. There are going to be some words in there, especially if you're starting out or struggling. There's going to be some words in there that you just don't understand or don't know. And don't worry, you're not a dummy. I have to do this all the time. I have to put the book down and I have to go Google or look at in a dictionary what these words mean so I can kind of continue the story. So don't ever feel discouraged. Part of reading is learning. So in these books, especially fantasy and sci-fi, there's some big words might get thrown at you. Don't ever feel intimidated. Just look them up, figure them out, and continue the story. I'll just wrap myself out a little bit. Some words I had to learn from reading this story right out the gate. The funniest one, miserere. I didn't even know what the title meant. It was a psalm in which mercy is sought. And some other words I had to look up were proselytize, entreaties, and inviolate. I had to look this stuff up, guys. So it did change the pace a little bit. But once I figured the stuff out, I went right back and man, it was just burning through the book again. So I think that the pace is quick, whether you know the words or not. I think looking stuff up isn't going to slow you down. This is a fast page or a fast paced book. The tone is what I really want to get into because the tone can be a little confusing. by all means, like early in the book, I almost thought I was reading a YA novel, and it was almost discouraging. Even though it was catchy and I liked it, I was almost wanting to put it down because I was like, I don't know if I want something that's got the kid gloves on it, But by all means, this is not a YA story. This is a little spoiler-ish, but it happens very early in the book, and this will just kind of help you understand where I'm going with this. Is very, very early in the book, some children from the 21st century get dropped into world. Now there's some parallel world stuff happening in this book, and so when these kids come into the book, it certainly gives it this more of like there's an innocence to it that definitely can feel a little kiddie. But by all means, do not give up and just keep reading because this is a very adult story. Along with the tone, I want to talk about just the Teresa Frohock's writing, like the province or like the town of Irisol was like it's been ravaged. It's a wasteland. It's abandoned. There's bones and ash. And when I was reading about this place, man, I wasn't even in my living room anymore. I was in this dark place, and it was great. I felt like it was just described perfect. It wasn't overly described, so I was still able to use my imagination. It was just a great job. Thumbs up, Teresa Frohock. As well as tone, I want to talk about something with the protagonist. Lucian, he has a crippled leg. And I've been like super used to, I guess, just healthy protagonists, people that have all, their arms and their legs. They're perfectly healthy. They can go out there, kick some ass, take a beating, and then dish more back out. Not the case with Lucian. Like you really do feel the hindrance of having this crippled leg, and there are plenty of times where you're kind of like even worried for him because it's like it's written well enough to where you're like, shit, he can't do this, you know what I mean? And there are definitely times where he can't and he'll need help. So it was kind of nice to see this, like, I guess, unhealthy protagonist. Not that he's unhealthy in his head, that he's more or less like physically not capable. And it definitely set a different like tone for me that I've read before, I guess. I mean, it was a new kind of desperation to the tale, and I really enjoyed it. Another thing I want to get into that I normally don't get into a lot is magic systems. I usually feel like if you're a struggling reader, we don't even need to worry about magic systems right now. We just got to get you into the woods. So this book is actually really great because the magic in here is really like it's faith based. So if you're having a hard time with magic, this would be kind of easy to wrap your head around, considering that we have things like Christianity in our world now. Maybe people aren't running around with Christ power like they are in this book, but I just feel like that might make it a little easier for you to understand it and take it in. It's very well done. I think that because like when they use their powers, they get tired. So there's no like, oh man, just because they got God on their side, they're invincible. There are plenty of times in this book where even though God's on their side, clearly you're still pretty worried for the outcome about the outcome. So just very well done. And I think for beginners, struggling readers, this book specifically just is going to cater well to a lot of you. Like I said, it's got the fantasy stuff, it's got religious stuff in it, but it's not preachy. I don't feel like this book is trying to convert anybody whatsoever. That's not. I mean, it's a very cool take on like Christian mythos slapped together into some fantasy. Yeah. So, like I said, I really, really enjoyed this book. It was just, I mean, I got hooked real quick and I burnt through it. I usually set like something like a 25 page count, kind of like quota deal for myself. I burnt through that and like soared past it every day. Like, it just was like, I destroyed this book in just a couple days. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm super glad because I feel like my mission to go out and find a hidden gem was extremely successful. I can't find anything about this book. There's no like YouTube reviews. I mean, there's a couple like articles, like reviews and stuff done. I do believe originally she had like loosely had some ideas to do like a couple more books in this world, but I'm almost positive that's never gonna happen. So this is just a standalone novel, which I kind of feel like that's a good thing if you're just trying to break into some fantasy. Best way, look, man, do a standalone. You don't have to get caught up in a series right away. This thing is just gonna help you, I think, understand a lot of the other stuff that you will read later afterwards. This is a great jumping off point for fantasy. I really, I salute you, Teresa Frohock, for a first novel, for a fantasy novel. I mean, it's got a lot of good in here, and I think this is what I was looking for, trying to bring to you guys as the slow and the struggling. So please go ahead and check that out. Miserere. All right, later, guys.